Alrighty, so in this next video, Photoshop 101, we're going to go over the layers panel and all of the aspects that are in the layers panel step by step, kind of similar to how I did the videos for the toolbar. So what your layers panel is the area that you're pretty much going to live in Photoshop in creating new designs. What the layer panel does is allows you to create and stack layers so that not all aspects of your design are just on one solid layer. You can remove and add things freely when you use layers. If you were to just use this background layer to create things, you can go on your paintbrush and you can add a different texture. Say we want to do paper torn texture, we could go ahead and add something like this here up on the top. And it creates like little torn paper edges, and we want to do this on the bottom, and then we wanted to add something else here in the middle. Instead of making everything on one flat image like you would see like a JPEG or a PNG, that's where layers come into play. Layers are extremely important. If you wanted to say remove this little section here, well, if you wanted to click it and you can't do anything. It's all set to your solid background layer. You can convert that to a normal layer. So say we convert it to a normal layer, which is going to unlock it. It's going to take the entire thing. We can't just remove this small element from the bottom anymore because they're all done on the same layer. So you've got your background color, you've got both of these elements here on the same layer. We're going to try to avoid that. So we'll hit Control Z a few times, which is undo. It's going to move it around, remove the brush strokes that we did, and now we're back to our solid background layer here over on the side. Your background layer is by default whatever colors you set it to whenever you're creating your document, and it's going to be defaulted locked. If you wanted to unlock your background layer in order to move it or do something to it, you can simply just click that lock and it'll change it to your basic layer. I tend to leave my background layers just locked, and I tend to not do anything with them. So if I needed to look at a blank canvas again, I can minimize some things and go back to it. So we'll rename this background. In order to add a new layer, the easiest way to do it would be to either click this little plus sign here down on the bottom, and it's going to give you a new layer. Now that new layer is going to be completely transparent. There's nothing on it, there's no background color, there's nothing to it. And that will then allow you to go to your brush stroke, and you can click and fill in that little torn edge paper or whatever design or whatever element you're adding to your design into it, and that will strictly be on that layer. If we wanted to then move that around, we can hit V rather, which is your move tool, and it's going to, since we have this layer highlighted here, it's going to just allow us to move that layer around. So say we wanted to move it somewhere else on the canvas, we wanted to maybe move it up so there's less of that torn paper showing or whatnot. It gives you free control over only that layer. We want to hide that layer so we can see the full background. You can click on one of the eyeballs that are next to that layer. So if you want to get rid of that layer, just click the eyeball without deleting it, and then if you want to show it back up, just make it visible again. You can do the same thing with the background. So now our background is transparent, which is symbolized by this white and gray little checkerboard here. That's important for saving things in like PNG files, saving it this way without any solid background color showing. And then if you wanted to add a new layer, you could again click on the little plus sign down here, and it's going to add you a new layer, which then you can go in and add another element to. So we've got our layer 2 selected, and then we can go ahead and brush something into it to create that second part of that layer. So now we've got a top tear and a bottom tear, so it looks like we've got one solid piece of paper in the middle, which is pretty nice. So that's the basics of layers and what you're going to be doing with them, so that everything is not just made on one background. every new element, everything you want to add to it. If we wanted to add a different color than white to the background, rather than modifying the actual background layer, you're going to create a new layer. Go to your paint bucket tool, or G. G by default is going to be gradient. You can right click this and go to paint bucket. You can then click on your toolbar here where the color changer is, and say we wanted to add red color for the background. Then we will be able to click and fill that with red. Now that layer filled the entire square with red. If you get rid of those, you hide those, you can see it filled with red. Doing things this way is going to make it a whole lot easier on you to go back and edit and change things in each individual layer, so that way you can modify and change your design. Now, one thing I didn't do when I created these layers is name them. They're named layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. They're out of order because of where they were placed or added into it. So be sure to name your layers. So this layer we can rename red background, and then that way that stays red background. We know what it is, we can go and edit it. This one up here we will rename top tear, and this one on the bottom we will rename bottom tear. So doing things this way, labeling them, adding new layers for every single element. That is the basics of how the layer panel works. The next video we're going to go over some of these bars here down at the bottom, some of the bars down here at the bottom, what you can do with these, with your layers, and then we'll just continue to add to this design here, and then we'll try and create something different. But look forward to the next video.